movies. I'm your guy. I'm your man, Mr. Alton Henry. But today we'll be reviewing, or I'll be recommending, a TV series, Underrated Shows. Will be the title. In 18, 19, 20, 21, so 5 years has been, which I deem to be one of my favorite shows ever. David Lynch's Twin Peaks: The Return, starring Kyle McLaughlin, McLaughlin, whatever, with David Lynch, Harry Dean, Harry Dean Morgan, yeah, Harry Dean Morgan. Okay. Anyway, this is the continuation from the original Twin Peaks show from 1990 through 1991. This show takes place, or it continues, 25 years after the original, where Dale Cooper, still trapped in the Black Lounge, makes his way back to the real world in a new doppelganger, or a new, well, somewhat personality that traps him, and he must find a way to break out of it to stop uh, his evil doppelganger from, well, from pretty much wreaking havoc on Earth and his body, while also trying to still rescue Laura Palmer from the original series. And I forgot when I discovered David Lynch, but when I heard about his cult classic show, Twin Peaks, I gave it a watch. I did see the original series. And quite frankly, I think season one is better than season two. I thought season two dragged out a little bit too long. But I believe season three, The Return, is the best out of all of them. And I think with this one alone, is the greatest television series I've ever seen in my life. Now, this one is a huge departure from the original. It's a lot darker, it's a lot more slow paced, and it's David Lynch unrestrained. Without interference, presumably, David Lynch goes all out on this. And I love it that he basically had full control over this. Kyle, um, which I didn't recognize he was the villain in the Flintstones, is amazing as Dale Cooper, FBI agent Dale Cooper, who also transforms into Dougie Jones, who also transforms into the evil Dale Cooper, who also transforms into another version of Dougie Jones. This guy plays pretty much 4 to 5 different characters all into one, and he pulls it off fantastically. Rarely do you see an actor that is able to play multiple characters in a way to where they kind of feel like they're similar, but he feels somewhat restrained, but is able to differentiate the personalities very well. And what I liked about this one, what I loved about this season compared to the other series that came out, the original, it doesn't feel restrained. It feels more free. Like David Lynch had freedom to pretty much explore whatever he wanted when it came to continuing this property, and it feels a lot more experimental compared to the originals, where David Lynch introduces multiple stories across this 18-part or 18 episode event, where some of these stories may or may not have anything to do with the series, or may have, you know, very little to do. They're mostly about introducing side stories that Dale Cooper has interacted or could have some sort of impact to David Lynch. I mean, not to David Lynch, to Agent Dale Cooper, and they might conclude that part of the story, or they may not, or they might, yeah, might leave it up in limbo, and you may never know how that version or how that story is going to end. And you never know. You kind of never know where things are going. You never know where David Lynch, as the storyteller that he is taking you to. You never know. You never know what's gonna happen, and I love the unpredictability that this show gives you, and you're not really able to foresee anything. I don't know, unless you're a huge fan of the show, um, and you've dissected everything about it. But this here gives you so much newness that it feels like you've never really seen anything like it before. And I believe when I was watching it, I have never seen anything like this before. This is like a horror drama with surrealness by the mind of David Lynch. And I think here this is his best work with a straight story. But here, this is his full-fledged, full trademark Lynchian type of story. It's actually kind of unique that David Lynch has a term named after him for his bizarre, unique, surreal horror that he has created in cinema. He has made a big impact on cinema. The original characters, or some of the original characters from the series, comes back, and you kind of see where their lives are. Where a few of them who've, I remember one particular character. I don't remember the character's name, and he was like some sort of crooked, kind of like bad boy kind of kid in the original series, and I guess he slowly started to redeem himself. And then you see him years later as a cop, where you see him, I guess, surprisingly sticking around into Twin Peaks as a cop, and you kind of see where his life is like where he's raising Amanda Strayfield, who's actually in the show, who plays the guy's daughter, and you kind of see that interaction. And then there are a few other characters who've, I think their lives hasn't really been the best since the show, but some of it you'll see that some of these characters do retain some sort of closure. And of course, there are new characters. I think the new character, you see more of the new characters than you do with the old characters, for the exception of for the exception of Dale Cooper, who's pretty much the main highlight. But here is the thing: the character iteration of Dale Cooper. You only get maybe like 5 episodes of him out of the 18 series run. Like the Dale Cooper you know and respect, and if you've seen the original and care for from the original show, you only get 5 episodes of that version of Dale Cooper, and the rest of it is this comatose like man-like child of Dale Cooper, which is known as Dougie Jones, who pretty much when he comes into his new version of himself, he most of the time tries to, or unaware because he's brain dead, or in a sense he's in a trance sleep, pretty much improves the lives of that Dougie Jones's um, um, scenario, where that Dougie Jones is in debt, dealing with some criminals he owes money to, cheating on his wife and all that. Somehow the version that I'm talking about, the man-child Dougie Jones, fixes the lives, fixes basically that version of Dougie Jones, and he fixes his life, improves it, gets his wife to love him again, gets his son to look up to him again, gets him a better job, gets people to like him more, and then you see that and you're wondering like just how, and it's done in a funny way, in a fun, serious way, which the show is actually surprisingly freaking hilarious. Like if David Lynch ever decided to write a comedy, I'm in. Like I would watch it firsthand because this film, I mean, not this series, is surprisingly very freaking funny. Like there were episodes I was laughing like my ass off. Like I rewound it several times just to, and it's dark humor. But somehow he does it. Somehow he is able to do it. Somehow David Lynch in this show has been able to make every scene better than the last and is able to improve it. I mean, there are some episodes that are better than others. I mean, episode 8, which everybody agrees on it, will stand the test of time. And I think episode 17 will also make a huge impact, especially how it all kind of wraps up and closes certain doors and somewhat maybe opens new ones. And you can, I guess you could see maybe this could be the final show of Twin Peaks. Um, Given, I think that how the series concluded, it does feel like it wraps up, but not in a way where everybody hopes for a happy ending, which I like that. I love that subversion that David Lynch plays on you. And I like that he does not try to play it safe, where you think it might go one way, and then you think it's going to go another way, then it goes completely different. He slowly builds up to a certain moment, and then when it happens, he pulls a rug under you, thinking you're going to go one direction when the moment happens, and then it goes completely somewhere else, and you don't even know. There's actually a few surprising cameos. I wouldn't say necessarily cameos. Certain actors actually have like a prominent role in here. Naomi Watts, Tim Roth, Jennifer Jason Lynch also shows up in the show, um, somewhat as side characters. And then I remember Michael Cera appears in an episode. And actually, you get quite a few actors in here. So I was actually surprised the amount of cameos, the amount of certain celebrities you see in this show. I remember I was really trying to watch it. Came on Showtime, and I just bought the DVD for it and binge watched the series like crazy for days, and I loved it. Now the show is slow, so like there's a lot of slow scenes, a lot of slow movements, and the characters react slowly, like they're trying to process something that they don't understand. I think that was by design, and it's also you're doing certain movements where I feel like by design, where you're really taking in the atmosphere. You're taking in what David what David Lynch is expressing to you, the world of Twin Peaks and everything, the surrealness, the horror, the everything. And you it's like an experience. You feel it's kind of like a like some sort of like transdimensional like meditation or something. When you're watching this show, you're like just brought in to something completely new and unique and original. You don't know how it's going to end. You just don't know. And then when the episode ends, and each episode it ends, and you're kind of just wondering. You're left wondering. And then even when the show concludes, you're still left wondering whether or not did what they did in the end, did it basically solve what the overall journey of Twin Peaks, and I believe it concluded in a satisfying manner. I actually would have preferred if they cut out episode 18. I thought how episode 17 ended would have been, I think, just a standout to me. I mean, it's just to me personally. Um, I also forgot Laura Dern's also in this too. Um, I feel like the ending to episode 17 was just more haunting than 18. I feel like it could have left a better impact um, for this show. Um, again, there's like multiple stories that go through the series, and really, I feel like the main storyline takes a huge back seat once all the other storylines get mixed into the main one. The show goes through those other stories and starts to wrapping those stories up and then going back to the main one, then starts to conclude that main story. So the show takes its time. Like once you kind of hit episode like 7 or 8, the series starts to take its time to kind of introduce everybody and concluding their stories, and then you're kind of going back to the main one and finishing off that, which is bold, which not a lot of I don't think not a lot of filmmakers can pull off, especially for a TV. Well, I don't know for a TV show, but I think it's rare. And again, when these characters come back, they may come back in ways where you might have a certain expectation for them, but David Lynch subverts it, and I'm just like surprised by it. I thought this was the best show I've seen in my life. Um, Twin Peaks: The Return. Have you seen it? Comment below, let me know, and I dare you to watch it because you'll be scared or you be, mesmerized by it. Psychedelic. Let me know in the comments if you have seen Twin Peaks: The Return. And I just love this show. I love it. I love this. I love The Return. It's poetic, poetic justice, poetic justice. And let me know what is your favorite underrated TV show.